Hey everybody, thanks for jumping on. I am just getting going here. Give me about 30 seconds and I will start the session here. Thanks. How's everybody doing tonight? I hope you guys all had a great Monday, wherever you are in the world. It may be Tuesday for you now. It is still my Monday evening for me, where I'm located at in the world. And we're going to get going on this live London Open market analysis. So let's see where we're at here. Looking at the U.S. dollar starting out. Let me get rid of this. Still continuing to see the bearish activity on the U.S. dollar. Now I'm going to pull up the news for the week just to get a good idea here. We've got the U.S. dollar. This is the only thing that I was looking at here. So I think we're probably going to see some continued price direction lower on the U.S. dollar. We do have a lot of news events. One high impact news events, consumer confidence at 10 a.m. And then we've got a very late in the day, close to New York close, Fed Chair Powell speaking. And then we've got a very late in the evening FOMC member Bullard speaking. So I don't necessarily think Bullard's going to do a whole bunch, but Fed Chair Powell could say something that may jar the markets a little bit. I still don't think it's going to deter us from the overall direction that we're going to see for the end of the week. But I think what I would like to see, this is really what I would like to see, and I'd actually like to see it more so up around this time frame here, around that 10 a.m. New York time. It may even start with FOMC Williams speaking. We'll have to see. But like right now, it's if you look at the markets, we're fairly one-sided direction right now. We had last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, huge down days last week, and unless you've been living under a rock and not watching Forex at all, you wouldn't have any idea on that. But it's some pretty big movement on the U.S. dollar, especially when you look at where it came from. I mean, it's been consolidating, basically going sideways, just making these small interim highs, new highs in here. But I mean, we see deep retracements every time, and now we've seen this big deep retracement here. And I think what we're going to see before the end of the week, I think we'll see this low taken out. So for sure, I think we're going to see this low taken out. That it comes in about 95.10. This low here exactly at 95.14. I think it'll sweep down 95.10 without a problem. I've got a longer term target that I'm looking at over here at 94.50 levels, and that's basically a swing below this low and this low right here. Whether or not we get below this one here, I think there's a very good chance, of course. But right now, this was my weekly target. So far, we're starting out a little bit shy of the gate. Like I say, Monday, it opened up and dropped down, and then Tuesday, we're seeing some continuation in Tuesday's candle here. That's what we're seeing right here. So what I would like to see, going back to that news event, what I would like to see is them actually come up. Now, I was hoping, I did my weekly analysis on Sunday before market opens, and I was hoping Monday was going to open up. Sunday candle was going to open higher and saw price jam back up in here off of these levels and then start to fall over. But it looks like it just started to fall short right out of the gate. which wouldn't be uncommon. I mean, there's a lot of weakness right now in the dollar, and I'll show you gold here in a second. You can see the exact opposite, so you can obviously see why we're seeing a big movement to the downside. So there's a lot of liquidity resting below here, here, and here, and I think that's where we're headed. And I think the easy one on the chopping block for at least Tuesday anyway is going to be the 95.10 level. Now, again, what we could see happen is a continuation to the downside all throughout London Open here for about the next 6 to 8 hours. I think we could see this continue to fall lower. And then what I was saying with that news coming in early New York Open, or right around this time to the CB Consumer Confidence, I'd like to see this actually start to drive it back in the opposite direction. Or at least a lead up to this news, driving it back in the opposite direction, and then the news coming out, or Powell speaking at 1 p.m. New York time, getting it back in sync with the overall time frame, which is to the downside. So right now, I'm just going to drop down to an hourly. As you can see, let me get rid of this guy here. We don't need this. We saw Sunday. Put the data buyers on. We saw Friday close way down here, swept below this old low here from 2 weeks ago, swept below the lows on Thursday, closed big down day, and then we opened short on Sunday's candle, creating a brief gap, retraced back up, filled that gap in, and then so far Monday, not a big breakout day on Monday. It was actually a pretty quiet day, so I didn't do any trading or really any market activity Monday, and mainly because I was running around in meetings all day. But the other reason is because we didn't see a whole lot of market activity on the day. It was a pretty quiet day in terms of range-bound days, and so I didn't do a whole lot, but we did nonetheless see some movement to the downside, and I think we're going to continue to see that. Now, as I said, I don't necessarily see a big retrace higher. For it to get above the highs on Monday, it could certainly do that. I'd like to see it do it sooner rather than later. And then again, that New York news coming out starting around 10 a.m. New York time, starting to drive it back in the opposite direction, or Powell speaking, one of the two. But nonetheless, I would like to see a brief retrace higher, and then a continuation to the downside going into Tuesday's trading. That's what I would be looking for. So I'm hoping we'll get that. Now, the other alternative, obviously, is we just keep sliding to the downside, in which case any small retracement on the 15-minute time frame would be a good enough entry, and away we go. So that's sort of what I'd be looking at in terms of an opportunity to get us in the market. And I even like this area right in here as a potential, just a sweep above. See this high here, this high, and that high right there. Let me take off the data divider. You can see that a little bit better. But this is obviously all Monday's trading range. I kind of like, and this is getting pretty specific, and we could certainly see the market move a lot higher, so don't marry this idea. But if we're seeing real hesitation going up, and we only see this marginal, small, incremental movement to the upside, I'd be looking for around 95.50 for price to return back to, and then potentially seeing price fall back down to the lower prices. So we can obviously bank our setups off of that, but if that's the general overview, then idea for the U.S. dollar, then I think we can, like I say, pick our targets on other foreign currencies. So that's what we've got on the tap for Tuesday, and then Wednesday we've got high impact news event for the pound sterling, and then core durable goods for U.S. dollar coming in at 8:30 a.m. So should be a good trading week. All in all, there's some nice news drivers in here that I think are going to move the market. And as I say again, I believe that we'll have the lower ends of this chart ran through this week. A matter of how they get there is still up for interpretation. You got to still stay fairly nimble. Like last week, we obviously had one big down day on Wednesday, and then a brief retracement. Price closed a little bit higher than the low point of the day, and then right out of the gap, and it actually created a small little gap right in here, right out of the hop on Thursday. Boom, straight one-sided price action all the way down. And then, again, a very, very shallow retrace going into Friday of last week. And then, boom, another big big down day to close off the end of last week. So we could get that very similar price action this week. Or, you know what, the other alternative is we just kind of consolidate a little bit and have a little bit of hesitation before it drops. But don't get it twisted, though, because, make no mistake about it, they will take these lows, whether it's this week or next week. But I think before the end of the month is up, and the end of the month happens to be on, well, the 30th. The 1st is next Monday. So I think it'll happen before the end of the month. That's my thoughts on that. Let's move over to Euro real quick. As you can see here, we took out some significant highs on Euro. Our next target, 114.60 to the upside. I actually think it's probably going to extend a little bit more than that. Maybe 114.80 we'll see. And we're not far off. I mean, we're only, if it does stretch up to 114.80, we're only about 73 pips away from that now. So again, I was looking for some retracement on Monday's candle and then a push higher, but we didn't get much of that. As you can see, Monday just pretty much started right out of the gate, and we're basically just shooting straight higher there. I would like to see this come down. Let me get rid of this guy here. I would like to see this come down. It would be great if we could, you see these highs in here, this high, this high, this high. I'd love it if we could get a retracement back down at least to 113, 47, 113.50. We may not get it, that's a ways away, and there's no real significant Euro USD news to drive it down there. Again, the US dollar news, maybe, but I would hope we would start seeing some of that happen very soon. Them starting to fall off, and I would be looking for a target down there, and then a retrace higher. I don't believe we should be running any lower than that. So if you see price come lower than 113.50, 113.40 maybe at the max end, then I would be holding off on any long ideas for a bit, because we may be re-challenging these areas in here. But I think we're probably going to see this stay bullish, and I think, as I say again, we're going to see 114.60 for sure. We may see it Tuesday. We may see it Wednesday. I think definitely before the end of the week. And then ultimately, I believe, same as the US dollar, we'll see 1, 2, 3 highs eventually tackled. And I'll just put this line up here so we got it. And I think easily we can get up into the 115s without any real struggle before too long here. So that's what I'll be watching for on Euro. But like I say, going down to a 1 hour and even a 15-minute entry. If we could get price just to kind of sweep back down below these lows right here, that's sort of what I'd be looking at as a potential entry on the downside. So 113.90, call it. Factor in your spread, of course, whatever broker you're using. And this is my demo account, and the levels are always different on everyone's brokerage account, so you just got to make sure all your demo trades, you're lining up to whatever these levels are in here, not necessarily the number that I'm posting here, but just make sure you're watching the actual levels that we're looking at. And I'm just be looking for a real quick sweep below these lows here, rejection, and a run higher. Now, if we get any momentum going past that, that's where you got to sort of sit and wait. They may want to stretch down to the 113.50 level. Again, it's a ways away. It's 50 pips, so it's a little less likely, but it'd be great if they did. They'd clear out all this stuff from Monday. We'd get that retracement that I was talking about earlier in the week, and then hopefully we would see a bounce in that neighborhood there, and I really would doubt that they would come back below this level right here. So I'm going to, let's do this. Change this up just a wee bit. Oops. There we go. So that's kind of what I was, that's sort of what I was looking for. But again, I'm still looking for, regardless of how deep it comes down, the ultimate goal is going to be this up here for the week. So hopefully we don't get much of a deeper retracement than that. And, what I was looking for, honestly, last week was move down to 112.65 and then a retouch off of this old consolidation level back here and then an expansion higher. We didn't get that. Some pretty bullish activity right now going on the market, so you got to get in while you still can and get on the movement, running higher. Pound dollar. So Euro GBP, we've obviously seen some pretty expanded movement to the upside. We're seeing a little bit of consolidation in here. And I think that's why we're seeing the cable is also starting to push, or keeping up with the Euro USD and pushing higher. Because normally what you see is the Euro will do either expansion or consolidation while the cable the Euro will consolidate while the cable is expanding, or the cable will consolidate while the Euro is expanding typically. But again, we're seeing such a huge movement in US dollar, it may just can't help itself from moving up in tandem with the Euro USD, just because of that massive movement on the US dollar. So a lot of factors at play on this, but nonetheless, I think this 128 level is an easy shot higher. I mean, we're talking 60 pips on cable. 60 pips on cable is nothing. It can do that in a blink of an eye. And several large news events for cable this week, so keep an eye out on that. Not super huge on the cable, only because of all the turmoil that we've been seeing, but we just took out on Monday. You can see that high right there was ran out from 2 weeks ago, and so far it looks like they're probably going to make another push up. This area is very well traded in here. We do have a small area of interest back down here at 12600 levels, but I think we're pretty far gone. I mean, we're 150 pips above that. Certainly if we get some adverse news and they want to do some manipulation, they could just flash crash it down there, scoop up all the longs, stop everyone out, and then reject and run higher, and ultimately push up for these levels here. That is definitely in the cards for cable. Again, don't be mistaken. Look at what they did here. These are daily ranges that I'm looking at. This is the daily chart. And you see the stop runs that they do just out of the blue. Boom, run it down, run all the stops, and then run it higher. Boom, run it down, run all the stops, and then run higher. A big wick here. So, I mean, to be honest with you, 150 pip wick on cable, it could do that. And it's not like they didn't warn you before, because they've done it, here, and more so recently, a couple of big wicks in here and a big one right in there. So just that's why cable, it's if you're going to trade cable, which I'm not saying not to, there's certainly opportunities in it, but just be careful. Keep your stop relatively tight, so you don't get hit on one of those big black swan, not necessarily a black swan event. Like, this wasn't a black swan, but definitely a stop run, right? So anyway, I am looking for higher prices. I'd love to see if we can sweep well above 128 and get up into the 129s. That would be perfect. I'm just going to leave that up in here. I think we could even see price extend up to this level here this week, but we'll wait and see. I think, personally for me, I'm going to be watching the Euro, and if I see a really good setup on cable, then maybe we can look into that. But I'd be more likely to go with Euro personally, and only because the Euro, it's just been compressed and consolidated for so long. It needs to finally get some galloping room here and make a little move higher. And so that's sort of what I'm banking. Ultimately, my sights are set well above here. So and I mean, even if you can get a piece of that, I mean, it's a 200 pip move. That's a month. That's a month trading that could potentially happen here in the next week. Maybe two. So that's sort of what I had my sights set on. Now I want to switch gears, talk about US CAD. We've seen a little bit of hesitation after this big deep retracement. Monday again, Friday came up just briefly, and I was really hoping we would have got a touch off of this lower level here, this lower candle. And then Monday out of the gate, I was again hoping quick touch off and then a continuation to the downside. Still haven't got that yet. I'm not necessarily holding out that we're going to see that little area and pocket price filled up, unfortunately. And my overall idea was to the downside. I always had this target on my mind moving forward with the Canadian dollar. After we swung up and tagged into the lows of this consolidation level up here, we saw price fall off. And then that's why these levels in here are highlighted. I was honestly looking for 13500 to come in. We just fell short of that. This one candle right here, just running above those highs, rejecting, and here we are going lower. But lots of opportunity on the US CAD. As long as we see that continuation to the downside on US dollar, I easily think that 130-100 is going to be in the cards for the Canadian dollar, and more. You know, I mean, 130.70 is this low here, relatively speaking, and I honestly I see some interest even right below these lows down here if we really get some further continuation down, and it doesn't seem to me, at least from what the Feds are talking about in the U.S., that that's going to change. The Canadian dollar has decided not to participate, or not participate yet, in reducing interest rates. So the more they do that, the stronger the loonie is going to get. And if you look at the futures contract, it's this exact chart here, but reverse it, and the Canadian dollar is getting stronger. And the longer they hold out on dropping interest rates, which they will, don't you know, you don't have to worry about it. They will drop interest rates. Then this is going to continue to keep falling. As the U.S. drops their interest rate, the Canadian dollar is gaining strength against it, and that's why we're seeing continued weakness in this pair. And whether it's just the strength in the Canadian dollar, or it's just more the weakness in the U.S. right now is more so true to speak, but nonetheless, I think, like I say, 130-100 is on the menu, and you know, not far away. We're at 131.80 right now, so definitely a nice 80 pips that we could capture. If we go down to a bit to the lower time frames, they've really sort of been just stagnating pricing here. I'd love to see just a quick reprice higher, taking out these highs here, and then just a quick run above these guys up here. I'm going to just mark this out because I think this could be something that we may see. And I want to grab this line as well and dial that in a little bit better there. And actually, I want to just slide it down just a touch, right about there. That's more so where I'm looking at the price going, swinging up above this high. So if we see a rejection and just a real quick zip up, I'll be looking for this area for them to gain some sort of resistance, and then we see price fall over, and then we'll be targeting those lower prices on US CAD. So there's a few pairs. I don't want to get too crazy with this. I mean, it's not like you can't just go ahead and pick a pair and, as the US dollar is falling, figure out what that pair does in relation and just go with it. Because, I mean, if the US dollar is going one way and you can pick the direction and you have your targets set on the US dollar, you can easily go out and do the exact same thing for however many cross pairs you like to look at. And whatever your favorite pair is, or two favorite pairs, go ahead and take a trade on that. Again, you know, keep your stops manageable, and keep it all in your demo account, and that way you won't have to risk any money. And this isn't going to constitute as any live trading advice. U.S. yen surprised me a little bit. I believe, well, I knew we were going to start falling, obviously, as we were in here. We were looking for a drop. We saw that late last month, and then more consolidation. This is what I was waiting on to finally break out of, and it did that a few days ago, and now we're seeing just, you know, nice momentum continuation lower. So going forward, lots of levels. 105.75, I think, is something that we should be looking at for the end of this week here as a run lower. And we're about 100 pips away from that right now. Same type of thing, though, like the U.S. yen, obviously the Asian pairs, they start trading. They start really moving about 4 or 5 hours ago is when they start picking up their in momentum and typically see a lot of heavy action. But you can see Monday just went straight sideways. Look at this, though. This is great here. This is what I was talking about in US CAD. This is what I'd like to see. They run price to consolidate it, and then they just shoot it up, clear the stops up here, and reject and run lower. And I wasn't watching this pair or anything like that, but had I been, we would have already been 60 pips to the positive on that move there. So that's sort of what I'm looking at for this US CAD move, something very similar. We see consolidation. I want to see, it could continue to run down a little bit, but I want to just see one brief, quick, swift move above, a rejection, and then a run lower. And I'm not a big yen trader anyway, so it really wouldn't have mattered anyway. Even if I did see this, I probably wouldn't have traded it just because I'm not a huge yen trader. Once in a blue moon, I might take a trade on it, but I did not do anything with that. What do I want to talk about? Australian dollar. couple equal highs up here in Australian dollar. I'm not going to talk a lot about this guy here. We saw price create these equal highs. This is going to be their target. So 0 dot, pardon me, 0.7210, I think is going to be an easy target to the upside. We're well away from that right now. We still got a couple hundred pips to go. It's going to take them a while to get there. I think this is going to be the ultimate target, though, before the, before July is over. I think we'll probably be up to there, as long as we see continuation downward. Now, we're seeing price, I took a fib off of here from that high to that low. We're running back up and we came right into the 72 and 79% retracement levels. A very logical place for price to rebalance and bounce. And I think we saw it here a little bit. Now, I'll just zoom in here a little bit. So we saw price open up and a little bit to the weak side. And so far, they're starting to gain it back a bit. But I'd like to see them come down and just rebalance if they at all can. Where did that line come from? See if we can't just rebalance off of these highs right in here. It doesn't have to go that low, but just a little bit lower than what I'm looking at on the chart here, and then a push higher. That's sort of what I'd be looking for on Australian dollar. But again, pretty slow. Monday started out pretty bullishly, and then it just sort of tapered off from there. And so far, we're seeing a little bit of weakness. But again, right, just I want to see a shot lower. We may not get it either. The other option is, and you see how it's kind of spending a lot of time right in this level right here. You see that they're coming up in here and they're spending a lot of time wick, and then they push through and then they came back down, wick. That could be sort of the area where they're just gathering all their positions in right now, and we may not see them go lower. So the Australian dollar could just start pushing higher from here, and it would be a pretty simple matter of if this candle or these candles start to get broken, you can pretty much get in anywhere there and then run that out, because I believe that's going to be the low level on today. And you could probably run your stop. I would probably put a stop maybe under here, and if you did look at something like this, you'd be looking at maybe 20 or 30 pips, which is reasonable when you consider we're looking for about a 250 pip plus target. That's more than a 5-to-1 trade, so that's well within trading parameters and your setup criteria, or what it should be. And but I would definitely be putting it under this swing low right here as opposed to this one, because they could still run it up and just shoot it down quick, sweeping these lows, going to our entry level that I was talking about anyway, which was right off of these highs, and then shooting it north. And you can see that that's just basically just this old high here, this old high here, and here. Now, they may not come down to it. Again, like I say, they tried to get down to it here. They failed, and then we pushed up and made a run over this high here. So I think this could potentially be the low. So I'd be watching that. Gold, I just want to touch base. I'm all done Forex. So if you're here just for the Forex, that's all I'm going to talk about it. And I'm going to just talk about gold real quickly and oil, and then I'm going to wrap this session up. Don't want to be too much longer. I'd like to try and really keep these sessions short and sweet so you can get back to your day. But gold, obviously, we just had this is just non-stop running. Like, look at this. I mean, when was the last time gold had a weekly or even a 2-week movement like this? I mean, it has been a very long time. We had one to the downside here and a nice one right here. But we're talking all the way back in 2015. I mean, this is nice to see. It is very, very nice to see. I missed it. Full disclosure, I did not trade this, unfortunately. I wish I did. I wish I could have said I got in down here, or I wish I could say I got in down here. I was looking at it. I was watching it. I saw this low, and this low created, and then I wanted to see what my trade plan was a sweep below these lows, a quick rejection, and a run higher, and my idea was to get long down here. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. That's really the nature of the beast. And it didn't cost me anything, being wrong, which is definitely what you want. If you're wrong, make sure it doesn't cost you anything. But I also didn't make anything either, which is the flip side to that coin. So unfortunately, I missed out on this trade. My trade idea to start the week was for price to pan down. So, and that's why I have this level in here highlighted and marked. And you can watch this, my weekly review videos. I make them live I make them public for everybody for free. to check out, so you can see my comments on there. We didn't get it. We got Friday, that finished up, nice up move on Friday in a higher close. And then Monday, it just went, I mean, I want to go down to a 15-minute chart, and you can see Monday really gathered steam towards the end of the day. As you can see in here, the latter half of the day, the true day. And now we're seeing price just firing right out of the gate, right in here and straight up. So now if we go back in time just a little bit, I just want to see, price just tagged right off the bottom of this level there. I just want to see where we're at in relation. See how price just took out this high here? So what we could be seeing is price running this high, and it just, like I say, it just stopped just sort of right about here. Let me put a line on that, actually. Let me get a level. High of this candle comes in, and we're still in the daily. High comes in at 1439. So what do we got here? Let me just put that on here. 1439. Call it close enough. So let's just zip over here. And I want to make sure I got that level. Yeah. So you can see that we just ran above this high right there. And that, again, like this this hasn't seen highs and levels like this since 2013. We're 2019. I mean, Jesus, I haven't seen it for 6 years now, 7 years. I mean, it's crazy. Not quite. This is August 2013. So not quite 7 years, but pretty incredible that we're seeing this movement. And I've got levels. As long as we can get up through this consolidation level in here, I believe we're going to see these levels in here hit back from earlier in 2013. It's about time. Gold has been moving sideways to lower ever since those old highs in 2013, and so it's about time. Now, I know there's a lot of gold bugs out there that have been waiting for this moment for a very long time, so it's nice to finally see. Anyway, like I say, looking on the 15-minute chart, we've just seen some great bullish action, and again, I was looking for some levels, well lower, down in here, looking for them to come sweep down into it, and they just came down briefly once right there, and then haven't looked back since. So let's see what happens here. We saw that sweep, that run above that old high right there, and you know what I want to do, just because I've got this in front of me, and I'm looking at it right now, I want to grab this level right here, and I want to throw it on that high. I'm going to see what the stop run was. That high comes in at 1433.51. Yeah, pretty close. 15-minute time frame. So there it was right there. That was the stop run. That was the initial stop run right above that old high. And we had 2 projections upward. And then now we're starting to see price weaken a little bit. So, what are we? That's 1433 to 1439. That's a 6-pip stop run. That may be all they need for them to retrace lower. So I want to watch this and see. I'm just basically going to be watching right here, and then I'm going to be watching down into this whole consolidation level in here, and see what kind of momentum downward they want to get to, because we do have some equal lows in here. And then I don't think they're going to run all the way down to here underneath these guys or anything. I don't think we're going to see a deep. If we saw a deep retracement like that to take out the lows from Monday, then again we would be seeing the U.S. dollar more than likely rally above Monday's high here and really come up back into these levels here. I don't know that's in the cards yet. Maybe after we clear this low here, we could see a rejection and a sweep higher for a bit of a retracement, like something like this here. You see how they did that? We're under this low here. They came down, and boom, rejected under this low, ripped it higher just to fall off. We could see something like that. Just a real quick sharp run below, and then a rejection higher and a run back up into this level for sure. And if we saw that, then we would obviously see gold start to, this level would be gone, this level here, all this level in here. Monday would be gone, and they may want to come back down. There's a teeny tiny little gap right there from where Friday closed to where Monday opened. And we could see them return back down to there. So I'm going to keep that on there as a potential. We'll see. It's minute. I don't want to discard it, though, and say it's not going to happen because, I mean, anything's obviously possible with trading. And you got to be, quick and on your feet when you see it. So when price comes smashing down into here, if it does, watch these levels. If you see any weakness or any hesitation, wait for the next level to see if they want to go and get in. Because the worst thing you want to do is say, no, it's not going to go any lower. You get in here, and you keep your stop tight, and it stops you out. I mean, no big deal. But if you the alternative is if you don't put a stop in, you could be headed for some serious account drawdown. So. Gonna finish up with oil, and we're seeing a bit of a bounce here at this resistance level, and I think I'm hoping we're gonna see a move lower. I want to see it reprice. I don't want to see it reprice down, back down to these consolidation levels in here. I really want to see that comes in at $54, 54.50, somewhere in around that neighborhood. I'm not gonna get too specific on it. But all in all, we had a nice push up in here, and I want to see what they do in here. I want to see if they want to have some hesitation, and then we see this, or if it just wants to keep falling off, and we see that continuation lower into the area that I was talking about earlier. We could see that. Now, we just saw a very brief run beneath these two lows right here, 1, 2, and actually 3 right over here, 3, 4 over there. We didn't get anything lower than this guy right here. So they just fell short. This candle here just fell short of that low there. Didn't quite get that. And when we saw this pop up, that's what I was honestly waiting for. So again, I didn't get in on this move higher because I wasn't sure that this was going to be the low. I wanted to see them at least run out this low before they did that, which also leads me to believe that they're not done to the downside yet. I'd like to say that this is the low, and that they'll come back, they'll retrace, and then we'll push higher, and we'll see $60 oil before too long. I don't know that we're going to see that, so I'm not going to call this as the low. If we get above this guy here, then I think there's a good chance that will be the low, and then we can shoot our targets higher. But I think we're going to see further retracement, and at the very least, all I'm calling for right now is 54.50 to the downside, and that's $2 from current location. Plenty of opportunity to get in if we do see that retracement down. And of course, what would negate that is if we start running above this high here from last week, then, I'm sorry, is that last week? That is, yes, earlier on Monday. This was the high from last week that they just took out. So if we see price go higher than that, then just start targeting all the way up into here. And I'll update you again if we do see that move. But I think there's a good chance we could see a stop sweep and a run beneath these lows right here. Like, see how they're building this up? They ran price up, dropped it once, ran it up, dropped it twice, 3 times, came all the way up, dropped it 4 times, ran all these highs in here, dropped it, and they're just failing to get under this low, this low, this low, and this low here. Kind of leads me to believe that they want to sink this thing a little bit, and oil can do it in a blink of an eye. It can drop down $2 and run right back up all in the exact same day. And the start of the day can end up here, the local point could be here, and the high point could be up here, at the end of the day. So I've seen that and more in oil. So you got to kind of watch for it. But we'll see what happens. It could be a bit of a roller coaster. So if you don't always trade this market, I would trade to the easy setups, the Euro USDs, the CADs, the cables, the whatevers, and leave oil out until we sort of get out of this little mess in here, and go from there. So anyway, folks, I hope you got some value out of this. I hope I help you out on the week, give you some directional bias anyways. Look at this. Look at the US dollar. It's just making a run. Making a run for lows. I really hope we get a retracement. We may not. But I'm also not going to jump into it with the expectation that it's just going to keep running lower. I want to see it develop a little more. To the very least, I'm going to hold off until leading up to about an hour or two before those news events at 10 a.m. New York time, and then see where we're at. And then we got the rest of the week to set our trade ideas up from there. So thanks for watching. I appreciate that. If you haven't already, just click subscribe here down in the bottom right-hand corner if you aren't already. And like I say, I made this event public for today. So if you came in for the first time and to watch, I appreciate that. I'm going to do more live events, public live events going forward, but the next one probably won't be for a little while, probably till after summer. And all the rest of the stuff is going to be private to our members-only group. So if you want to check us out there, go to f45trading.com, and there are several options for you to take advantage of. Chat rooms to live analysis rooms to coaching to the whole bit. So appreciate your time, and we will catch up with you on the next video.